Imagine this, you're walking home after a long day of work. The only thing on your mind is slipping into an 8-hour-long coma. As you walk by a dark alley, you hear a crash. Stunned like a deer in headlights, you stare into the darkness. As if they appeared out of nowhere, you are jumped by a conservative media pundit and their camera crew.
Stunned, shocked even, you reach for your pepper spray, but it's too late. They've already started asking you the questions. But you realize you have absolutely no media training.
They begin to bombard you with cherry-picked data and statistics in the hopes of you not being equipped to refute it. You are unable to respond and are now forced to nod in agreement, hoping they leave you alone. Your fate is sealed. You appear in their next Liberals Get Wrecked cringe compilation.
But after this video, not anymore.
Within a minute, you will be able to debunk some of the most common climate denialist talking points, ranging from policy to actual science. These refutations are mightier than the pepper spray. Not only will you be able to keep the pundits away, but they will physically disintegrate right before your eyes. Climate misinformation is a growing problem within political discourse. In fact, the most common arguments are extremely annoying to deal with because any random person who has skimmed through a JSTOR abstract is more capable of describing climate change than any pundit can dream of doing. Many denialist arguments focus on creating doubt by attacking the legitimacy of climate science and climate scientists. Most of their arguments are contradictory and easily debunked with one Google search. Therefore, this video will not only provide a brief refutation, but focus more on the strategies of disseminating misinformation, and why they're worth less than the effort they put into huffing Sharpies when they should have, been doing actual research. The first 2020 presidential debate was an absolute dumpster fire, mainly because Trump focused on dislocating every single bone in his body to squirm around the questions. Without developing brain cancer, I managed to find 2 points. Although Trump conceded that climate change is in fact happening, after analyzing the actions he had taken in power,
you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records.
And taken a look at the people he put in charge of the EPA, it can be inductively reasoned that he is either lying or he just doesn't care. The first point, with heavy quotations, was that the Paris Climate Accord would destroy American business. This is less than half the story. Yes, it would harm coal and fossil fuels, that's kind of the point, but it creates economic and job opportunities within renewable green energy markets. In fact, he is parroting this from the Heritage Foundation, which is funded by the Koch brothers, actual oil barons, which are also top donors of the Republican Party. The data that the Trump administration cites is from an analysis conducted by the NERA, which does confirm that developing green infrastructure would harm American jobs in the fossil fuel industry. But the study did not examine international policy, like the Paris Climate Accord. In fact, the study's own authors had explicitly told the Trump administration to stop misusing their data. It only exists for policymakers to be aware of and work around the challenges of implementing this new infrastructure. What Trump proposed would actually cut us out of an immeasurable number of well-paying, sustainable jobs. And for what? To save a dying coal industry when solar is now cheaper than coal? Or to ravage indigenous land for 35 permanent jobs? Is it worth it? After going on an unhinged rant about the Paris Climate Accord, he then went on to talk about how the Obama Green Energy Plan drove up energy costs. When in reality it actually caused the exact opposite. The plan actually saved a lot of Americans money. However, this metric is highly variable depending on how much the state relies on coal. According to the EPA, the reduced emissions could lead to an upward of $45 billion saved related to climate benefits and health crisis mitigation. This leads to hundreds of thousands of prevented asthma attacks and thousands of avoided premature deaths by 2030. Considering that all these people do is harp on about jobs, what good are they if the labor force is dying premature deaths of pollution or by climate change related catastrophes? You know what? Considering that the plan targeted coal plants and fossil fuel companies, I wonder what financial incentives would have made the representative of the GOP lie about climate policy. It often seems as if media pundits and their politicians have a permanent cycle of disseminating misinformation. Media pundits often rely on fake experts to disseminate climate denialism,
etc. Because now it's become that climate change is too hot, and it's too cold, and it's too wet, and it's too dry, and then they make up that there's more tornadoes and hurricanes, which is false.
In Carter's interview with Dr. Moore, they go against overwhelming consensus to push their lies. Instead, I, a bio major who is graduating in less than a week of this video being uploaded, will explain how science as a philosophy works, and how an actual PhD either doesn't know about the role of CO2 in the environment, or is lying for unspecified reasons.
CO2 is the most important nutrient for all life on Earth. And maybe the reason people came into existence is because the atmosphere wants a little more carbon dioxide for the plants. Who knows? 88% of world energy. I'm just going to do a little bit of energy here, because especially to people concerned about human-caused climate change, energy is the flip side of the coin, and global energy policy is what they want to get their hands on.
CO2 is important for photosynthesis. However, a light-absorbing pigment, while receiving a certain wavelength of light, photosynthetic active radiation, or PAR, and water is needed to carry out photosynthesis. Without that pigment, you just have water and CO2. Those react and make carbonic acid. Carbonic acid reacts with substances such as calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate is a vital component of the skeletal structures for several marine organisms, including photosynthetic plankton. In the ocean, it's also widely known that most of our oxygen comes from there, and that wouldn't be good for, humans. Doctor, I use this term loosely, Patrick Moore, is a false expert that, according to the Greenpeace movement, often misrepresents himself as an environmental expert or even an environmentalist, while offering anti-environmental positions on a wide range of issues and taking a distinctly anti-environmental stance. He also exploits long-gone ties with Greenpeace to sell himself as a speaker and pro-corporate spokesperson, usually taking positions that Greenpeace opposes. So if these pundits had to dig through the bottom of the barrel to find these clowns that need to be corrected by an undergrad, I suggest you laugh them out of any public discussion on climate change. Now, more importantly, what is consensus? Well, science as a philosophy seeks to reduce the complexity of the natural world. The means by which we do this, as in we, I mean scientists, do this by collecting data. As more data is collected, as data collecting techniques improve, and as technology improves, consensus can be formed. For example, in terms of humanity's relationship with the climate crisis, because of the abundance of data we have, through peer review, accumulation of data and conference, and academic debate, there is a general agreement among scientists that climate change is happening and is also caused by humans. So, on Crowder's website, one of his writers frequently shows themselves to not understand how to interpret data and reading comprehension. In fact, their own sources contradict them. With a title straight out of 2014, I'm not surprised. How in one quote, the same study even says, growth of this one singular glacier doesn't outpace the net loss of sea ice. I wonder if there are any natural phenomena that may be causing this. Instead of posing an argument, they resort to using GIFs and poorly titled articles as a retort to scientific consensus. So here's a really quick lesson, both in science and, mostly reading comprehension. When people refer to the ice caps melting, there's a plural in there. Ice caps. S. It ends with an S. There's more than one. Come on, guys. You're better than this. I know it. So one glacier growing for 3 years straight because of some already known weather patterns and ignoring the years of melting prior, it still doesn't make up for the net losses in Greenland, let alone anywhere else. And linking me to some random directory, to some random website, doesn't count as a source. I think they should focus more on reading the articles instead of looking for the perfect boomer tier GIF caption. I'm confident in saying that these people shouldn't be trusted. And now you, the viewer, should be able to call out any pundit or politician for not knowing what the hell they're talking about.